Hey guys, Matt and V here for the Inception Agenda, and today we're going to be talking about sleep and how important that is for recovery, general well-being, just some sort of all of the science around it that we know to date, and it's really one of those fields, again, there's just so much current research going on with it. So I guess to start out, I'll sort of kick off with talking about amount of sleep. So the amount of sleep that you need varies depending on your age, and that's a relatively well-established fact. For this, we're not really going to talk about, the elderly. We're not going to talk about young children. Young children in particular need more sleep than the average adult. So we're going to talk about the average adult. Now, everybody kind of knows this whole idea of 8 hours sleep. And then you get the hardcore heroes of the world who are like, I function on 5 hours and I don't need a minute more. And my alarm clock never wakes me. I wake up with a passion. Yeah, whatever. There's been a lot of studies that have been done on sleep and how much sleep we need. And one that I read a couple of years ago was done by the APA, the American Psychology Association. They looked at sleep. And they basically had people who were put in a cave for a 3-week period of time, I believe, or it was just under 3 weeks. And the idea of putting them in a cave is you've got no bearing to outside. There's no temperature fluctuations. There's no light fluctuations. So you actually don't know what time of day it is. And they took away all of the devices for the time of day. And what they did is they tracked over that period of time how much did people sleep when they had no external stimulus to regulate the amount of sleep required. And it came out that most people on average sleep just over the 8 hours. I think it was about 8.13.
Okay.
And so what they'd sort of established in that study is that regardless of what you sort of say you need and what you believe you can function on, that biologically you need about 8 hours sleep a night as an adult. Now, if you're getting less than that, that doesn't mean you can't function throughout the day. We all have crap night's sleep. We all get busy and have to wake up early for a flight or whatever. Not so much nowadays, but you all kind of have these nights where you might only get 5 or 6 hours. Now, that doesn't mean you won't function throughout the day or get through the day, but it does mean that your mental cognition is going to be impaired. And there's been significant studies to show that if you don't get the correct amount of sleep in the night, that your mental cognition will be impaired. And it might be, you miss a couple of hours sleep and you've got 10% impairment in terms of your cognitive abilities. But what we're going to really talk about is how you can benefit from getting that 8 hours sleep, getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so there are things like, recovery is a big one, which I'll get you to talk about, V. There's things like your mental awareness and cognitive abilities, which I'll talk on. What else have we got there with sleep?
Basically, sleep covers such a vast areas, as you said. So, what we focus on is how much sleep and why we consider sleep such a good recovery agent. For our industry, basically, there's so much different information out there. But, using the supplementation we do and why we think sleep is important, as you said, most people sleep around sort of 5 to 8 hours a night. And for me, I think I don't necessarily focus on the hours of sleep, but the quality of sleep between that time.
Yeah.
So I believe, 8 hour sleeping for 8 hours, you're probably getting 2 to 3 hours of REM.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
General rule is, you take anything around that 2-hour mark to get into REM sleep, and then REM sleep will last for around about an hour. So you kind of sleep in these 3-hour cycles. Typically, it varies again from person to person. It varies on how much stress you've got, so what your cortisol levels are like when you're going into sleep. But let's assume everything's all good and healthy. You're going to get that sort of 2 to 3 REM sessions in your sleep cycle. And so, you're going to get that sort of 2 to 3 hours of REM sleep overnight, which is your main recovery window.
Exactly. So then that's what I was going to get to is basically, REM sleep is what we look at for recovery in all sorts, your immune system, your muscles, everything evolves around that deep sleep that we can get, because that's when we're releasing more growth hormone. And if we're releasing more growth hormone, we're going to recover a lot faster. Growth hormones are crazy. Released through our pituitary gland. It's basically what the one agent is in recovery. So, supplements which I believe work a lot. I've used supplements to help sleep, and I haven't as well. I still cycle between the two. And when I do use products with, like, say, magnesium, zinc B6, especially ones with like zinc, magnesium, selenium, taurine, I always have a better sleep. I always feel like I sleep better, and not necessarily get the 8 hours, but the hours I am getting, I function a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with sleep, a lot of it, it's not just about, when you go to bed, trying to make sure you go to bed at 10 and you're not waking up until 6 or whatever. So you've got that 8 hour marker, but it's about the preparation going into sleep as well.
Yes.
So making sure, things like you're not using devices right before you go to bed, making sure that your bedroom is actually a room of sleep, not a room of where you basically configuring your brain to think it's going to be reading entertainment devices and things like that right before bed. Making sure, in terms of, not drinking too much water, so you're not having to wake up in the night to go to the toilet and all those types of things, but making sure you're hydrated enough so you don't wake up with a dry throat in the night. Yeah. So it's kind of like making sure that you prepare throughout the day to make sure you're ready to get a really good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Also, not oversleeping. That can be a real problem, because if you oversleep, that's when your cortisol starts to get out. That's where you start to get all of that groggy feeling, because your body's melatonin, the natural melatonin that we produce, it's all out of whack, and so your body can't work out whether it's supposed to be resting for longer. If you're getting woken up, interrupted in the sleep cycle, that's why, with alarms, is also being strategic about your alarms and what times you set them for, so you're trying to time it so you get those effective sleep cycles in the night.
Yeah, absolutely. Waking up or getting woken up and sleeping for too long is actually, you feel worse. You feel worse for it. So too much sleep is probably worse than less sleep.
Yeah.
On a lot of occasions.
And then you get the whole idea of napping, which it was really interesting when I was looking into some of that, as around the sort of physiological and psychological effects of napping. So one of the more effective types of sleep cycles that scientists have found and research has proven is that if you have a 6 hour main block of sleep, and then you have that sort of 2 to 2.5 hour nap during the way, the whole idea of the afternoon siesta, which is sometimes quite a preferable way of doing it. And I know when I've been on prep before in the past, I've actually used that type of sleep cycle, because I couldn't sleep more than 6 hours at night in terms of getting all of the training routine in, especially the early morning cardio. So it's kind of like bed at 10, up at 4, cardio and so on. But then I'd go through my working day, and then I'd sort of nap around 1 o'clock in the afternoon for a couple of hours before the kids got home from school. So I'd get in a nap that way, and I gave myself those REM cycles just at different times during the day.
Yeah, exactly. So it's important, depending on lifestyle, I guess, as well, to when and how you can sleep. As you said, cortisol is what wakes us up and puts us to sleep. So it's utilizing, your lifestyle best for when you can get quality sleep. And everything functions better when you sleep properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Mental, physical, just everything. So it's about making sure that you can recover from your workouts. We've talked about that in one of our post-workout recovery videos. So you get a good night's sleep. You're going to wake up with less DOMS. You're going to be able to move better. You're going to be ready to train again. So it's just all round. It improves your cognitive faculties. There's many studies that prove the effects of sleep deprivation on ability to drive, reaction times, and so on. So sleep is really the foundation that our gains or our fat loss, because you won't lose fat if you're not getting enough sleep as well.
Muscle gain, everything.
The foundations of all of our fitness goals, because of course these podcasts are more focused towards fitness goals. The foundation of it is sleep.
Absolutely, completely agree.
And it's one of those things a lot of people forget about: recovery times, sleep, rest days, all of that. Everybody's obsessed with how much they're training in the gym, what their diet's like, and they forget about the rest and recovery, which is really key.
Yeah, well, what's your opinion on, we hear a lot about catching up on sleep. So you don't sleep the whole week, and you get to Saturday or Sunday, and then people sleep for 9-10 hours.
That's an interesting one. There's actually no clear-cut answer in the research on that. I've seen different studies where they look at the whole idea of cumulative sleep deprivation.
Yes.
And the idea that you can catch up on sleep, but there's a point at which you can't catch up on sleep. So that's why, I don't advocate people, trying to live this 5 hours sleep a night type lifestyle and wearing it like some sort of badge of honor. Like, if I can only get 5 hours sleep at night, I consider that kind of a failure because I've neglected my body and neglected one of the most important things that I need to be doing to function effectively in my job and in my family life and in my training and so on. So do I think you can make up cumulative sleep deprivation? In my personal opinion, no. I think that if you have a night where you might only get 5 or 6 hours sleep, then you try to get 8 or 9 the next night. If you can, try to make sure you get a good rested night. But trying to get 10, 11, 12 hours sleep, I don't actually know if you're going to see the benefits from it. But that's my personal opinion, and the research is somewhat divided on that fact. So I don't know if you've got a different experience, but I tend to find that if I've missed sleep, the best I can do is just try to get back into my normal patterns the next day.
Oh, I completely agree. I completely agree. I think for me, I don't probably get the 8 hours, but I do I always try and get the 8 hours if I can. I don't believe that, people that sleep less are better than anyone else. I think, as you said, from a performance point of view, sleep is very important. So whether you get it 6 hours in a couple hours here, I think we need to get away from, you're cool if you don't sleep. Sleep is a very, very important tool to use. We're made to sleep, and you got to utilize it the best you can.
One of the funny things is, though, it's not 100% understood why we need sleep. We just know we need it. We don't understand the exact reasonings why we need it, because we can rest and recover just as effectively lying sedentary on the couch.
Correct.
So we don't necessarily need it for that. But it's like even, completely different topic. We'll talk about it another day, but I was reading a very interesting piece of research on stretching and whether stretching is actually needed or not. And it was talking about why do dogs stretch and why do cats stretch and things like that, because they stretch. So clearly for them, they're not doing it just for shits and giggles. They have a reason for doing it. Animals do things that have a specific reason to them, but they don't spend half an hour a day working the yoga mats and making sure that they're stretching every little minute fiber of their bodies, yet they still function 100% fine without it. And
they sleep a lot.
And you'll be happy to hear this. What they were finding in this research at the moment is that heavy weight training, if you're using full range of motion, is as effective as stretching in terms of overall muscle health. So maybe you don't need to do your stretching anymore.
That's why I never had to stretch.
Bit of a digression there.
So to cover off, Matt, because you're one of the busiest people I know. So you got family life, businesses, sports. So you still advocate sleep compared to not sleeping.
100%. And I have not always been that way. I used to be one of those dicks who used to be like, I only need 5 hours a day. And I wore that like a badge of honor.
Yes.
And I really did. I thought that meant that I was just pushing it to the max. It was counterproductive. Okay. So I'm just a huge advocate of sleep.
So you've been on both sides of the fence.
Both sides, and making sure that you get enough sleep now.
Okay.
And making sure that you get quality sleep. And I find that I'm more productive. I get more done in the day. And I'm more strategic in terms of I tend to work 7 days a week and sort of fit it around family and things. But I do find I use power naps strategically. I try to get in 20 minutes, an hour if I can at times. And that's especially if I know I'm going to be up particularly late and things. But I do manage my sleep like I manage everything else in my life. Like the sleep is actually something that I actively manage in my diary.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that because I've found the same of the amount of work on and research that we have to do now. I actually do get in 20, 30 minutes here and there because I don't get 8 hours full a night anymore. It's just been very beneficial. Like I definitely function a lot better. I sort of take in information a lot better as well. So I'm on the side of the fence of sleep is actually a big advocate what used to be known as, we don't need sleep. But I actually believe we do.
Yeah. So sleep is one of those things not to see as, it means you're lazy if you need 8 hours sleep.
Yeah.
It's actually, if you need that sleep, you need to be making sure you get the sleep, because you're going to be mentally more focused and sharper. You're going to recover faster.
Yes.
You're going to hit your fitness goals, ultimately what these podcasts are about. So, it's an all-round win, and it's about removing that stigma that if you sleep less, you're going to achieve more.
Exactly.
So this is Matt and V for the Inception Agenda.